Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. This is Mira Morton, aka the Bossy Coach. I'm sorry that I missed you all on Saturday. I had every intention of doing a Facebook Live, but my food tour of Charleston, South Carolina ended up running long, and then we had to go run and catch a flight. So it didn't happen. But I've been thinking this week about what I wanted to talk to you about. I'm going to talk to you again on Saturday. Don't worry, I'll have another one. Um, but the theme of perfectionism has been coming up a lot for me. It's something I've been working on around myself and also for two of my clients. I think it's just a common thing that we all struggle with, and perfectionism really gets in the way of a lot of things, a lot of the movement and growth we'd like to make in any area. Perfectionism can kind of stop us on our track. We have this tendency to just stop moving and try to wait to figure out how to do it perfectly, or wait till we're ready, or learn more, or practice more, or hide more, with this idea that eventually we'll get to a place where we feel comfortable doing it, and then we'll actually start. And I think the same thing is true with intuition. We have this kind of perfectionist, all or none thinking about it, that if we are not right about our intuition 100% of the time, then what's the point? Why bother keep trying? How can I even use my intuition if I'm not right about it all the time? And I think letting go of that and being willing to make mistakes and be wrong about your intuition and kind of fail your way into understanding it better is actually the secret to becoming more intuitive and really being more open to the messages and just kind of figuring it out. That whenever we get hung up expecting that something has to be all the way on, we have to have it all the way figured out, or it's not valuable. I think that's absolutely not true. I can see a million places in my life where that isn't true. And so sometimes I find myself kind of stuck in the trap of perfection. I actually spent the last week or two struggling. I've been kind of exploring this around, I'm in a weight loss coaching program, and I've been watching the ways that my own perfectionist fantasies have been playing out and kind of keeping me stuck a little bit. I got a little bit off track while I was traveling. I was even a little off track before I went traveling. My mind was a little freaked out about it, was worried that the scale was going to go up. And because I couldn't figure out how to get back to the really good way I had been before, I was I wasn't willing to take any steps at all. And so I realized this week, okay, this is perfectionism. This is if we can't be the perfect fantasy of the self that we aren't, then we're not going to try at all. So I kind of caught that. And I know that one of the tricks to getting out of that is just being willing to take baby steps. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be amazing. It's not going to be a huge step. It's not going to be tremendous progress. The way that it kind of played out for me was, eating 25 peanut M&Ms at work yesterday, 2 batches. I went for one batch and then I went for another batch, but then I was like, okay, I could stop here. Now I could have chosen to beat myself up and been like, what's the point? Let me eat all of the peanut M&Ms in the office. But I was like, no, it's valuable to stop here. We still learn something. We still get a benefit out of it. It's still an improvement over where we were a couple days ago. And then I woke up this morning after talking to a client last night, and she had said, I never give myself partial credit. And I totally can see that that's exactly what I was doing with me, that I'm not giving myself partial credit for mostly following my plan. And there's so much value in giving yourself partial credit, because when we beat ourselves up and we tell ourselves that there's no point in doing something if we can't do it 100%, if it can't be perfect, even if we don't use the words perfect, even if we just have a standard that we never seem to meet, that's perfectionism at work. And we tell ourselves this lie that it's not worth doing. And so when you give yourself partial credit, you're giving yourself props, okay, we're not there yet. We're still a work in progress, but we're definitely moving in the direction we want to be going. And it actually helps you feel better. It generates positive emotion, and positive emotion generates positive action, makes you willing to keep practicing, right? If you beat yourself up when you're not perfect, you don't want to practice anymore, because practicing sucks and is painful because you're mean to yourself. But if you give yourself partial credit, then practicing at things suddenly becomes worth doing, because there is no real negative consequence. Instead, it's just okay, what did I learn by practicing that? And I think all of this is applicable to like everything in life, but it's for sure also applicable to practicing your intuition. If you have thought patterns or habits about how you talk about yourself when you get your intuition wrong, which inevitably all of us are going to do. We thought we were following intuition and we weren't. We kind of were following intuition, but it got muddled. Like, all the things. We're all going to do that. If your thought process and the way that you treat yourself in this moment is to kind of beat yourself up and tell yourself, I'm not intuitive, I'm never going to figure this out. What's the point of intuition if it's not 100%? You will never truly cultivate and maximize your intuitive potential. But if you can learn how to kind of set that perfectionist self aside, notice her when she sneaks in, or him, notice that perfectionist self sneaking in and saying, wait, I know what you do. You slow me down. You stop me in my tracks and you keep me from exploring. So I'm going to take some baby steps and I'm going to give myself some partial credit and kind of see, okay, I didn't totally follow my intuition there, but look, like I can look at it now in hindsight back at what I did, and I can totally see the thought that got in the way. Like I didn't recognize it. I didn't realize that it was a thought that was clouding up my intuition, but I can see it now in hindsight. So I just learned something. And now I'll know to watch for that kind of thinking in the future because I know that that kind of thinking tends to cloud up my intuition. So powerful. And it causes you to keep practicing. It causes you to keep trying to trust in the messages that you get and finding out, like, okay, what does it feel like? And when does it feel like it might be intuition? But then it turns out that it's not really intuition. Like, you have to get all of the nuances of that. And the only way you'll ever get it is if you're willing to practice and you're willing to be wrong. And then you got to be willing to take baby steps. Like, incremental improvement in your intuition is incremental improvement, people. Like, if you do have enough of it, one day you're vastly more intuitive than you were a year ago or 2 years ago. And those baby steps and giving yourself partial credit is so important. I think in our culture, we really have this idea that like we're supposed to kind of beat ourselves up in order for things to get better. But the reality is, when we beat ourselves up for things, we stop functioning. It doesn't work. But partial credit does work. Like noticing, hey, actually, this was better than last time. Or like, even if this was a terrible day, at least I did this right. I actually do this every day in my food journal. I have a win. And some days it's really, really hard for me to think about what the win is. Like, what did I do right here? And some days it's like, I journaled anyway. I got on the scale anyway, right? Giving myself partial credit or partial credit for only eating 23 of the peanut M&Ms instead of the rest of the bag. But that partial credit, I end up feeling better. And the better I feel, the more willing I am to follow my plan more closely the next day and to plan a plan that is more, conservative and strict about what I'm going to eat. So it serves me to do that where it doesn't serve me to beat myself up. So I invite you, if you're on this intuition journey with me, which I hope that you are, and that's why you're listening, to give yourself partial credit, watch and take baby steps, and know that baby step after baby step after baby step after baby step will transform you into an incredibly powerful, intuitive being. And that intuition will guide and completely transform your life. But you just have to be willing to get there a little imperfect step at a time and give yourself partial credit. So I hope you found this helpful. I will be back on Saturday with a new topic or maybe an expansion of this topic. I don't know. If you have thoughts or questions or comments, I encourage you to send them to me in Facebook, and I will see you all soon. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your week.